Hi. What you've just seen are some snapshots from our life, and I share these as a way to tell our story. My name is Marquita. I'm 61 years old. I'm a mom and my son's 18. I graduated from high school in 1969, and I'm blessed. My parents are still with us, and they're both 88. And this is important because this gives us a perspective that not everyone else has. I say 1969 graduate, and as you can see here, there's the praying hands on the program from our baccalaureate service. And baccalaureate services, I think, are non-existent for the most part, but spiritual, meaningful, and our history was still intact at the time. I say that because everything that I experienced through the 60s, growing up in the 50s, and the memories of my father, and the stories of World War II, and the history of our family. You saw in the first pictures, they were here since 1700. Everything that we know as true history and morality and decency has been vanished. It's being wiped away. When we were in high school, it was an honor to hear the national anthem, and I remember being in band and being the first year flutist and standing on the 0-yard line at the football game, and just the thrill and just that move to tears because of the patriotism for our country. So I share that to put this into a perspective. It's very, very difficult to try to summarize what I'm trying to say to you. I think the best place to begin this story would be 2007, when I went to Detroit Public Schools for the 07-08 and 08-09 school year. And I would not have expected that to happen. We had been through a series of really incredible circumstances, and that's where God placed me. I felt really confident of my skills and my ability going there. I grew up in metropolitan Detroit. I'd lived all over the country. And my father, he also graduated from a Detroit public school and went on to be a World War II veteran, decorated veteran, went on to own his own non-union tool and die company. So a real sense of success and pride and belief in the American dream. So 2007, when I went to Detroit as a special education teacher, I went into circumstances that were like stepping 20, 25 years backwards into the realm of education. These pictures you could see in the introduction, but this letter to Mrs. Falke, a cry for help. Please read this note. And then you see the same child making pictures of help me from under the tombstone. Rest in peace. Help me. Help me. This same little fellow had been asking for help for a year. What was so interesting was spring of 2008, I had asked for help because there were several really small, fragile children that were in my classroom, and they were subjected to somebody much larger and very much a bully. And in trying to remove the bully from our classroom, I didn't expect that someone would come back and complain that I'd done that, or I ruffled somebody's feathers, or whatever. There was a loop that happened between the district, between Wayne Risa, between Lansing, and back, and I don't know all the details. I don't know that I ever will. So a year of badgering and harassment that didn't really make sense until afterwards. It seems that in my school, there'd been a decision somewhere along the line in administration to blame me for things I don't even fully understand. I know that seeking help for these students stepped on somebody's toes for sure. So it was months later in the next school year when the letters came, the cry for help, as well as several others. And once again, the administration was just really turning a blind eye to the children. Also, what I'd never experienced before, I never saw a school, I'd never been in a school where Malcolm X was more celebrated than Martin Luther King. And I say that because the social worker's office had a poster that was like 24 by 36 inches, Malcolm X. Not Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. And I'd never heard anybody refer to praying people out of the building, praying teachers out of the building. And I'd never heard of a blonde-haired, blue-eyed devil. I didn't know that a concept like that existed. But it was interesting because my principal, Mary Wright, from Chicago, thought it was perfectly acceptable to use our school as a camp extension of Barack Obama's campaign office for presidency. We were all given these bookmarks, very, very elaborate. Many organizations involved in the blackcampaign.org. And they're very slick, and they don't actually say his name, but it has all the sophisticated branding of the change, etc. And it was especially cruel because here's excerpts of Martin Luther King taken out of context. To truly teach Martin Luther King and all the events, that was not okay. That was not going to happen. So I left Detroit in springtime of 2009, and just in time for my son to start high school out in the suburbs. He entered his freshman year, 2009, in the Plymouth Canton High School Educational Park, 3 schools on an acre and a half, 6,000 students. So a challenging environment for the best, to say the least, I guess. It's quite a tongue-tie experience. So 9th grade was difficult. Numerous situations of violence, potential violence. My son in world history, they were told, well, Mao Zedong, had a lot of good qualities. Just a real strange slant on everything, and just an extraordinary environment, just being so large. But the nightmare really started to come together the beginning of his sophomore year. And I'll never forget the night of the open house. I went to my son's United States history class open house, and I knew we were in trouble because the front of the teacher's desk had a tattered copy of the United States Constitution. On the bottom of the desk, tattered, all sorts of other books, progressive, leaning and slant, various people. Is that okay? And we were told that the textbook wouldn't so much be the main force of the class, but different literature and different made materials. So we started from the premise, and these materials are from the Teachers Curriculum Institute. The beginning was defining and debating America's founding ideals, which, okay, that's a title in itself, but at no point was the United States Constitution included in this. It was simply slice and dice, selectively taking information. So then, after partial information, then our children are brought into a position of, well, really analyzing, the Declaration of Independence, and as a country, are we really living up to the ideals? So this is our introduction, and the next main thrust is our position in a global world, global society, moving toward greater global involvement. So we don't discuss the Constitution, but here we have the major elements of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And what do you know? Because this is so similar to what is being the proposal and the ideas for more of a United Nations globalist approach to our world. So everyone is entitled to life, liberty, security, and nationality. And some of the interesting ones go to the bottom without reading the whole list. Free and fundamental education, adequate standard of living, work and membership in a trade union, ownership of property, so just different elements, but nothing in reflection to our Constitution, and everything from a global perspective. From the global perspective, we start learning about United States imperialism. So one of our lessons, Unit 3, from loner to bully, what's the best policy? So, United States in the world, from loner to bully. Right before Christmas. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas and U.S. imperialism, a metaphor. Say that again. Metaphor. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas and U.S. imperialism. And down here we have the excerpts from The White Man's Burden. So once again, always putting a negative slant on the United States of America. This was early on also, and you can see the choices for our country, position of isolationism, collective security, world policeman, or world bully. So we could be a loner, a team player, a world policeman, or a world bully. Only choices. So my son tries to take two themes and combine them because he doesn't really want to identify us as only one of these. No leadership, no sense of American exceptionalism. So to modify the assignment and still try to have credit from her, he tried to modify it, and that wasn't okay. No, you had to just strictly use the literature and the terms, and that's what I began to see through the whole curriculum. Everything is carefully orchestrated. The vocabulary is redefined. Principles are redefined. And the more I studied this and more I researched, I began to stumble on other people's work. when I discovered Charlotte Thompson Iserbyt and her work and discoveries beginning in the 1980s, it was such a realization and an eye-opener. So it's like, this has been seen. This is going on, and our history is being rewritten and distorted. Anything that could be labeled communism, the word doesn't come up. It always comes back to collectivism. So here, capitalism, democracy, freedom, individualism. Socialism, totalitarianism, equality, collectivism. Now we're talking about the Cold War terms and definitions, but communism is consistently left out. So for a perfectly coordinated curriculum, we cross over to United States English and literature, and we have excerpts from The Crucible, which has been part of literature throughout the years in high school, highly debated, but this whole unit took an extra slant, and it's hard to see here, but this is a pre-reading and post-reading, and it's all your thoughts, your interpretations. Question toward the bottom. An underage teenage girl who has sexual relationships with an adult man is always a victim. The government has the right to protect its society no matter at what cost. Witchcraft is real and dangerous to society. So going through the book and watching the film 7 or 8 times, the kids said that they're pre-reading and post-reading. And it's not about factual information. It's all about changing impressions, putting our children at a point where they're confused and stressed, very stressful. This was another book at the time, Bill Bryson's Life and Times of the Thunderbolt Kid. I hadn't read this as a young person, but once again, total twist and laugh about the 50s and 60s, and heavy slant, making fun of anyone's concern for communism, making fun of faith, different references. So that was another piece of our experience. So moving right along, we come to World War II. Now keep in mind, my father's still alive, my son's grandfather, decorated World War II veteran. And so here we have, we're at World War II. It's our fault, potentially, that so many of Stalin's people starved to death. That was our fault. We have a book, The Abandonment of the Jews, and the 12 things that America did wrong. It's a page on Nazi Germany, the children, which is amazing because this is exactly what our kids are going through. And I'm going to leave you with one poem, and I want to read this because this is what is being given to our kids. The father of the Jews is the devil. At the creation of the world, the Lord God conceived the races, Red Indians, Negroes, and Chinese, and Jew boys too, the rotten crew, and we were also on the scene. We Germans, midst this motley medley, he gave them all a piece of earth, to work with the sweat of their brow, but the Jew boy went on strike at once, for the devil rode him from the first. Cheating, not working, was his aim, for lying he got his first prize, in less than no time from the father of lies. Then he wrote it in the Talmud. So, this in perspective to what's happening in our world right now, and the sense of globalism, and what's happening in terms of the attacks on the Jewish people. And this was in a culture, a community, where this was very, very provocative. This would be provocative with anyone. So this is just a sample of so much information I have to share. I've made a website to begin to help other people have this information. It's freedomfromeducationaltyranny.org. And I hope that is one piece of information that will help get the word out, because we're all in trouble. Our nation is under attack. And if we don't stand up and address these issues for our children and their future, our country as we know it is over. So that's all I have to say right now. And thank you.